My sister stood up at the family dinner table in front of 30 people, tapped her wine glass to get everyone's attention, and when our cousin's business partner asked who I was, she smiled that venomous smile I'd seen 1,000 times and said, "Oh, that's Lauren, my older sister. She's currently unemployed. A jobless loser, basically. She threw away a brilliant career to play nurse, and now she can't get hired anywhere. Isn't that right, sis?" Her friends erupted in laughter like trained seals. My mother looked mortified. My son looked at me with apologetic eyes. And I just sat there, legs crossed, calmly sipping my iced tea, letting the humiliation wash over me like I'd learned to do with every single one of her attacks over the past 2 years. But here's what my sister Jessica didn't know: the man sitting across from me, the one she'd been desperately trying to impress all evening, the one she called her biggest client. That was Richard Chen, former VP at the company where I'd been chief operating officer. The company I'd left voluntarily to care for our dying mother. And when Richard looked at me with recognition and respect, then turned to Jessica with raw irritation in his eyes and said those 3 beautiful words, "You are fired," watching her face crumble was the sweetest moment of vindication I'd ever experienced. I'm Lauren, and this is the story of how my sister tried to destroy my reputation to elevate herself, and how karma delivered justice faster than I could have ever imagined. Let me take you back 2 years before that dinner, because you need to understand what I sacrificed and why Jessica's betrayal cut so deep. I was Chief Operating Officer at Tech Vanguard Solutions, one of the fastest-growing software companies in the region. I'd worked my way up from entry-level analyst to C-suite over 15 years. I had a corner office, a 6-figure salary, stock options, a team of 50 people reporting to me. I was at the absolute peak of my career. Then my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The prognosis was grim, maybe a year if we were lucky, likely 6 months. She needed around-the-clock care, constant medical appointments, someone to manage her pain medication and help her maintain dignity as her body failed her. My sister Jessica, despite living closer to mom and having a more flexible job in marketing consulting, made it immediately clear she wouldn't be that person. I can't put my career on hold, Lauren. I'm finally building momentum. You're already established. You can afford to step back. Afford to step back. Like my career was disposable. Like the 15 years I'd invested meant nothing because I'd already made it and therefore owed my success to the family. But it was my mother. The woman who'd raised me, supported every dream, sacrificed so I could go to college. How could I not be there for her? I made the hardest decision of my professional life. I resigned from Tech Vanguard. My CEO begged me to reconsider, offered me a leave of absence, remote work, anything to keep me. But I knew caring for my mother would require my full attention. I couldn't do both jobs halfway. I expected my family to understand, to appreciate the sacrifice. Instead, Jessica called it career suicide. She told everyone who'd listen that I'd thrown away everything I'd worked for, that I'd never recover professionally, that I was making an emotional decision I'd regret. For 11 months, I cared for my mother. I managed her medications, drove her to appointments, held her hand through the worst pain, cleaned her when she couldn't do it herself, and sat with her during the long nights when the fear of dying kept her awake. Jessica visited twice. Both times she stayed less than an hour, uncomfortable with the reality of illness and death. My mother passed away on a Tuesday morning in March. I was holding her hand. She thanked me for being there, told me I was the strongest person she knew, and asked me to take care of Jessica because she's not as strong as you. Even in death, my mother was asking me to protect the sister who'd abandoned her. The grief was devastating. But I didn't have time to process it because I immediately had to face the reality of rebuilding my career. I'd been out of the workforce for nearly a year. Technology moves fast, a year is an eternity in my field. I'd missed industry changes, my network had cooled, my resume had a gap that screamed career interruption. I started job hunting, reaching out to former colleagues, applying to positions. The responses were disappointing. Companies were hesitant about the gap. Some were sympathetic but ultimately went with candidates who hadn't taken time off. I had interviews but no offers. For 6 months, I searched. And for 6 months, Jessica made comments. At family dinners, she'd ask loudly if I'd found anything yet in a tone that suggested I was unemployable. She'd offer unsolicited advice about maybe aiming lower or considering a career change. She'd tell relatives I was struggling to find work, painting a picture of desperation that wasn't quite true but wasn't far off either. The truth was, I wasn't desperate. I was selective. I'd spent 15 years building expertise, and I wasn't going to take just any job. I was consulting part-time, had some savings, and was waiting for the right opportunity. But Jessica's narrative was more compelling. Successful sister throws away career for martyrdom, can't recover, slowly becoming irrelevant. She seemed to take pleasure in my unemployment. Like my struggle validated her choice not to sacrifice for our mother. If I was failing professionally, it proved she'd been right to prioritize her career. The dinner where everything exploded happened 8 months after my mother's death. My son Cameron, who'd just graduated college, had landed his first job at a marketing firm. Jessica had helped him get an interview there, which she mentioned approximately 10,000 times, taking full credit for his employment. The dinner was meant to celebrate Cameron's 3-month work anniversary. My ex-husband hosted it at his house, inviting extended family and some of Cameron's colleagues. I almost didn't go, tired of being Jessica's punching bag at family events, but Cameron asked me to come, so I did. I dressed well, not corporate formal, but nice. Attempted to look successful even while unemployed. Determined not to give Jessica ammunition. She was already there when I arrived, holding court with a group that included several people I didn't recognize. As I walked in, she waved me over with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Lauren. Come meet everyone. This is Richard Chen, one of my biggest clients. And these are some of Cameron's colleagues from the firm." She gestured at 3 younger people who smiled politely. Richard Chen. I recognized him immediately. He'd been VP of Strategic Partnerships at Tech Vanguard when I was COO. We'd worked together on major deals, sat in countless meetings, presented to the board together. I'd respected him enormously. Our eyes met, and I saw recognition flare in his. But before either of us could speak, Jessica continued her introduction. "Richard, this is my older sister Lauren. She used to have a career in tech, but she's currently unemployed. Taking some time to find herself." She actually made air quotes around find herself. The way she said used to have a career made it sound like ancient history. Like I was some has-been from a bygone era. One of Cameron's colleagues, a young guy who looked fresh out of college, said, "Oh, what did you do in tech?" Before I could answer, Jessica jumped in. "Oh, she was in operations or something. Nothing too impressive. But then she left to take care of our mother, and now she's finding it hard to get back in the game. The industry moved on without her." The casual cruelty took my breath away. She'd reduced 15 years of career achievement to operations or something and framed my sacrifice for our mother as a naive mistake that had destroyed my employability. Actually, I started, but Jessica talked over me. It's sad, really. She was so dedicated to work, and then she just threw it all away. Career suicide, like I told her at the time. Now she can't even get an interview. I've been trying to help her, giving her advice, but she's very proud. She said proud like it was a character flaw. Richard's expression had shifted from surprise to something darker. Disgust, maybe. But Jessica was oblivious, too pleased with herself for humiliating me to notice. Anyway, enough about Lauren's unemployment. Let's talk about something more cheerful. She turned to Richard. "I was telling you about that campaign proposal." "Excuse me," Richard interrupted, his voice cold. "I'd like to hear from Lauren actually. About her career in tech. Since we used to work together." Jessica's smile froze. You worked together?" "Yes. Lauren was Chief Operating Officer at Tech Vanguard Solutions. I was VP of Strategic Partnerships. We worked together for 3 years before she left to care for her mother. He looked at me with genuine warmth. How are you, Lauren? I heard about your mother. I'm very sorry for your loss. The room had gone quiet. Jessica looked like she'd been slapped. I'm doing well, thank you, Richard. It's good to see you. I've actually been trying to reach you, Richard continued. I moved to a new company 6 months ago, and we're building out our leadership team. I've wanted to talk to you about our COO position. It's been open for months because we can't find anyone with your combination of operational expertise and strategic vision. I blinked, stunned. I didn't know. I haven't been checking my old work email. That explains it. I sent several messages there. I should have reached out through LinkedIn. He pulled out his phone. Can I get your current contact information? I'd love to set up a formal conversation. Jessica was watching this exchange like a tennis match, her face growing progressively more panicked. Her friends had stopped laughing. Cameron's colleagues were looking at me with new respect. Of course, I said, giving Richard my number. I'd be very interested in hearing about the opportunity. Excellent. I'll call you tomorrow to schedule something. Richard turned to Jessica, and his expression transformed from warm to ice cold. Jessica, I need to speak with you. Privately. They stepped away to a corner of the room. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught fragments. Richard's voice was sharp, controlled fury. Completely unprofessional, how you speak about family, character judgment, can't work with someone who. Jessica's responses were stammered, desperate. I didn't know. Just joking, didn't mean. They came back to the main group. Jessica's face was pale, her eyes wet with tears she was trying to hold back. Richard addressed the room, his voice professional but firm. I apologize for the disruption to this celebration. Jessica, as I just explained, I'm terminating our consulting contract effective immediately. Your services are no longer needed. You're firing me? Jessica's voice cracked. Over a misunderstanding? Over a pattern of unprofessional behavior that I've witnessed firsthand tonight. How you treat people, especially family, speaks volumes about your character. I don't work with people who demean others to elevate themselves. He turned to Cameron. Your mother is one of the most talented executives I've ever worked with. The fact that she stepped away from her career to care for her dying mother shows integrity and values that, frankly, this industry needs more of. You should be proud of her. Cameron nodded, tears in his eyes. I am. I've always been proud of her. Richard shook my hand. I'll call you tomorrow, Lauren. I hope we can work together again. The industry is better when people like you are in it. He left. The room was silent except for Jessica's quiet sobbing. I sat back down, picked up my iced tea, crossed my legs, and took a long sip. The vindication was sweet, but the anger and pain of what she'd put me through was still raw. Jessica ran to the bathroom. Her friends awkwardly made excuses and left. The dinner continued, but the energy had completely shifted. My ex-husband pulled me aside. I had no idea she was treating you like that. I'm sorry, Lauren. You deserved better. Thank you, I said simply. Later, Jessica emerged from the bathroom, makeup ruined, eye swollen. She approached me hesitantly. Lauren, I'm so sorry. I didn't know he knew you. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd face consequences for humiliating you? I kept my voice low but hard. Or you didn't think about how your constant degradation of my choices has affected me for 2 years? I was joking. No. You weren't. You've been systematically destroying my reputation at every family event since Mom got sick. You called my sacrifice career suicide. You told everyone I couldn't get hired. You painted me as a failure to make yourself feel better about abandoning our mother. That's not fair. Fair? You visited Mom twice in 11 months. Twice. I was there every single day, watching her die, managing her pain, holding her hand. And you spent 2 years punishing me for it. For making the choice you couldn't make. I couldn't handle seeing her like that. Neither could I. But I did it anyway because she needed someone. And instead of appreciating that sacrifice, you've used it as ammunition to tear me down. People were staring now, but I didn't care. 2 years of swallowed anger was pouring out. You know what the worst part is? Mom asked me to take care of you. With literally her last words, she asked me to look after you because you're not as strong. And I've tried. I've let your comments slide, ignored your jabs, made excuses for your cruelty. But I'm done. You don't want a sister. You want a victim you can feel superior to. Jessica was crying hard now. Please, Lauren. I lost my biggest client because of this. I need help. You lost your client because of your own actions. Because you showed him exactly who you are, someone who tears down family to impress strangers. That's on you. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Cameron caught up with me. Mom, wait. I'm sorry. I didn't know Aunt Jessica was treating you like that. I should have said something. I hugged him. Not your fault, sweetheart. Enjoy your celebration. I'm proud of you. I left, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt something other than grief and frustration. I felt free. If you've ever been degraded by family members who should support you, if you've ever made sacrifices that were thrown back in your face, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happens next proves that doing the right thing, even when it costs you, always comes back around. Richard called me the next morning. We had a 3-hour conversation about the role, the company, and what they were building. It was the kind of opportunity I'd been hoping for. Leadership position, innovative company, values-aligned work. He also apologized for Jessica's behavior. I felt partially responsible. She clearly thought impressing me was more important than basic decency to her sister. I needed to make clear that's not how I do business. You didn't have to fire her. Yes, I did. I've worked with her for 6 months, and last night wasn't an isolated incident. She's made comments before about a sister who couldn't get her act together. I didn't know she was talking about you. If I had, I would have addressed it sooner. How someone treats family when they think there are no consequences tells you everything you need to know about their character. We scheduled a formal interview for the following week. It went exceptionally well. They offered me the COO position 3 days later. Better title than I'd had before, better compensation, equity stake, and a company culture that explicitly valued work-life balance and family. I accepted. Jessica tried to reach out multiple times. Long texts apologizing, asking for forgiveness, saying she'd made a mistake. I didn't respond for 2 weeks. When I finally did, I kept it brief. I accept your apology for the dinner. But we need distance. Your treatment of me wasn't one bad night, it's been 2 years of systematic degradation. I need space to heal from that. She sent back angry messages about me being unforgiving, holding grudges, punishing her too harshly. Which proved she still didn't understand what she'd done wrong. I blocked her number. My first day at the new company was surreal. Walking into a corner office again, meeting my team, diving into strategic planning. Like the missing puzzle piece of my life had clicked back into place. But it was different too. I'd changed. Caring for my mother had taught me what actually mattered. Success wasn't just titles and salary. It was being able to look at yourself in the mirror and know you'd done right by the people who needed you. I'd made the right choice leaving Tech Vanguard to care for Mom. Even if it cost me career momentum, even if it led to months of unemployment, even if my sister used it as a weapon against me, I'd made the right choice. And ironically, that choice led me here. Richard hired me not despite stepping away for family, but partially because of it. We're building a company culture that values the whole person, he told me. Someone who sacrifices career advancement to care for a dying parent is exactly the kind of leader we want. The dinner incident became family legend. My aunt called to tell me she'd heard about it from 3 different sources, each version more dramatic than the last. In one version, I'd apparently stood on the table and delivered a speech. In another, Jessica had fainted. The truth was dramatic enough. Extended family reached out to express support. Several mentioned they'd noticed Jessica's treatment of me but hadn't known how to intervene. A cousin admitted she'd been uncomfortable with Jessica's constant unemployment jokes but had stayed quiet to avoid conflict. Their silence had enabled Jessica's behavior. But I understood. Family dynamics are complicated, and confronting bad behavior is hard. 6 months into my new role, the company landed a major contract that I'd helped negotiate. The success was celebrated company-wide, and I received a significant bonus. I thought about how Jessica would have reacted to this success if we were still speaking, probably some backhanded compliment about finally getting back on track or making up for lost time. I was glad she wasn't there to poison the achievement. Cameron and I had dinner that night to celebrate. Over dessert, he said, "Aunt Jessica asked me to give you a message. She wants to meet up. Says she's been in therapy and has things to say to you. What do you think I should do?" "That's up to you, Mom. But I'll say this. What she did at my party, the way she talked about you, it really messed with how I see her. I can't forget it. Neither can I. But I was curious about the therapy." And Mom's last request, to take care of Jessica, still echoed in my mind. I agreed to meet her at a neutral coffee shop. She arrived looking nervous, clutching a notebook. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know I don't deserve your time." "You're right. You don't. But I'm here because Mom asked me to look after you, and I'm trying to honor that." Jessica nodded. "I've been in therapy for 4 months. Working through a lot of things. Jealousy, insecurity, our family dynamics growing up. How I felt about Mom. How you felt about Mom." I was angry at her for getting sick. For needing so much care. For disrupting my life right when things were going well for me. And I was angry at you for being strong enough to step up when I couldn't. So I punished you for it. It was the most honest thing she'd said in years. Therapy helped me see that I was projecting my guilt onto you. Every time I mocked your unemployment, I was really trying to convince myself that your choice was wrong so I could feel okay about my choice. Your choice to abandon Mom. She flinched. Yes. I abandoned her. I was selfish and cowardly, and I live with that every day. I can't tell her I'm sorry. I can't fix it. So I tried to make your sacrifice seem foolish instead of noble, because if you were foolish, then I wasn't a coward. The clarity was startling. And painful. Because it didn't undo the damage, but it explained it. I don't expect forgiveness, Jessica continued. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did. And I'm truly, deeply sorry. Not sorry I faced consequences, sorry for the pain I caused you. You deserved support and gratitude, and I gave you cruelty and mockery. I sat with her words. They felt genuine. But trust, once broken so thoroughly, doesn't rebuild quickly. I appreciate your honesty, I finally said. And I'm glad you're getting help. But I need more time. What you put me through was sustained and deliberate. One conversation, even an honest one, doesn't erase 2 years of being your emotional punching bag. I understand. Maybe someday we can rebuild something. But it's going to take time and consistent changed behavior. Can you accept that? Yes. Whatever you need. We finished coffee awkwardly and parted ways. I drove home feeling conflicted. Her apology seemed sincere, but the wounds were too fresh to heal immediately. Over the following year, Jessica respected my boundaries. She sent occasional texts, never demanding responses, just sharing updates or sending articles she thought I'd like. She acknowledged my work successes when Cameron mentioned them. She went to therapy consistently. Slowly, very slowly, I started responding. Brief texts at first, then longer conversations. We met for coffee a few more times. She never made excuses, never minimized what she'd done. We're not close now. I don't know if we ever will be again. But we're civil. We can be in the same room without tension. At family events, she's respectful and kind. The dinner incident changed both of us. It forced her to confront her worst behaviors. And it taught me that protecting yourself from toxic people, even family, isn't cruel, it's necessary. I'm thriving at work. The company's growing, my team's strong, and I'm building a career I'm proud of, one that doesn't require sacrificing my values. When people ask about my career gap, I tell them the truth. I cared for my dying mother. Some interviewers or colleagues get uncomfortable. Others respect it. The ones who respect it are the people I want to work with anyway. My mother's death and the aftermath taught me that success without integrity is hollow. That doing the right thing sometimes costs you in the short term but pays dividends in character and self-respect. Jessica tried to define me by my unemployment, by the gap in my resume, by the choice she saw as weakness. But that gap represents the most important work I've ever done. Not operating a company, holding my mother's hand as she died. Being there when she needed me. Choosing love over ambition. That choice cost me career momentum and subjected me to 2 years of mockery. But it also led me to a better opportunity with a company that values the whole person. And it proved to myself that I'm someone who does the right thing even when it's hard. The dinner where Jessica introduced me as a jobless loser was meant to humiliate me. Instead, it revealed her character to someone whose opinion mattered. It brought consequences she hadn't anticipated. And it freed me from caring what she thought. Watching her get fired wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. About the universe balancing scales I couldn't balance myself. My name is Lauren. My sister tried to destroy my reputation to elevate herself, and karma delivered swift consequences. But more importantly, I learned that the choices we make when no one's watching, when there's no reward, when it costs us dearly, those are the choices that define us. I'll never regret stepping away to care for my mother. That gap in my resume represents love, sacrifice, and values. And any employer or family member who sees that as a weakness isn't someone I need in my life.